Usually when you pull up a major corporation's quarterly earnings report, it gives you a fairly straightforward roadmap.
Right. Tells you where they've been, where they're going.
Exactly. But looking at Tesla's Q1 2026 data, you get this really distinct feeling that you're looking at a roadmap for two completely different companies.
Yeah, it's wild. Like, one is a struggling automaker, and the other is this artificial intelligence juggernaut. Just using that first one as an ATM.
Okay, let's unpack this. For those of you listening out there on the internet, our mission for this deep dive is to cut right through that contradiction.
Because there's a massive contradiction there.
There really is. And we are pulling from a massive stack of sources to do this. We've got Tesla's Q1 2026 earnings call transcript, their internal financial decks, Wall Street consensus reports.
Plus the retail investor Q&A.
Right, and all the breaking market analysis from CNBC, the New York Times, and Nikkei Asia. It's a lot.
It's an overwhelming amount of data, honestly. But a pretty clear narrative emerges when you synthesize it all together.
Yeah, and the goal of synthesizing all this for you guys is to understand how Tesla is managing a clearly stalling core electric vehicle business, while at the exact same time placing these bets worth tens of billions of dollars on a radical pivot.
A pivot toward AI, humanoid robotics, and, custom semiconductor manufacturing.
Right. But before we get to the futuristic silicon and the robots, we really have to ground ourselves in the present reality, the actual Q1 financial numbers paying for this future.
Which requires looking really closely at the top and bottom line numbers because they're incredibly disjointed this quarter.
They really are. So Tesla missed Wall Street's revenue expectations slightly. They brought in $22.39 billion versus the $22.64 billion that was expected.
But then somehow they managed an adjusted profit beat of 41 cents per share.
Right. And the glaring outlier, the number all the analysts are obsessing over, is the automotive gross margin. It jumped to 19.2%.
And that's excluding regulatory credits, which is key.
Exactly. Now, I know you listening probably know what gross margin is. Basically, the profit made on the core product before all the broader company expenses, so we don't need to define the accounting too deeply. But we do need to debate the why.
Yeah, because a 19.2% margin in the current macroeconomic auto environment, it seems totally detached from reality.
Completely.
And that's because it is detached from the daily operational reality of selling cars. That margin was, artificially inflated by massive one-time benefits.
Oh, wow. So not from just selling more cars.
Not at all. If you look closely at the earnings transcript, the CFO explicitly outlines that this near 20% margin relies heavily on sweeping warranty adjustments and retroactive tariff relief.
Okay, wait. I want to look at those warranty adjustments first, because this is a classic accounting lever, right?
It is. Historically, an automaker sets aside this huge pool of cash to cover expected repairs for cars under warranty.
Right, and if the data suddenly shows the cars are breaking down less often than they initially projected...
Exactly. The company can just take a chunk of that reserved cash and sweep it back onto the balance sheet. So it looks like recognized revenue for the quarter.
Which is great for today's optics, but, it's like finding a forgotten $20 bill in your winter coat.
That's a great way to put it.
It's great for your cash flow today, but doesn't mean your actual salary went up,
Yeah.
Are these margins actually sustainable?
Short answer, no. It's not a repeatable sales motion. And the other major lever was that tariff relief.
Right, from the Supreme Court.
Yeah, the Supreme Court recently struck down a substantial portion of the previous administration's tariff agenda. So corporations across the board are clawing back refunds from the federal government for tariffs they already paid on imported parts.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, relying on a Supreme Court ruling and, accounting sweeps to hit your quarterly profit targets, it points to a deeper issue.
It really masks the fact that the organic engine of the company building and selling EVs is under immense pressure.
And we can see that pressure in the actual cars. Global inventory supply has ballooned to 27 days. Cars are just physically stacking up on logistics lots.
The velocity of sales has demonstrably slowed down. We see it in the delivery numbers, which sat at 358,023 vehicles.
Yeah.
That's a sequential drop.
Yeah. And maybe the most symbolic indicator of this era shifting, the Fremont factory.
Oh yeah, the S and X lines.
The production lines for the Model S and Model X, the flagship luxury cars that essentially built the modern Tesla brand, they are officially dismantled, dead.
Add to that the fact that the Cybertruck is really struggling to find high-volume traction. You have to ask, what is driving this demand cliff?
Well, the Wall Street consensus reports point to a multi-front war.
Yeah.
At the lower and middle tiers, Chinese manufacturers like BYD and Xiaomi they're not just competing on aggressive pricing anymore.
Right. Their software-defined vehicle architectures allow them to iterate on tech and push updates way faster than a legacy firm can even approve a design change.
Then you look at the upper tier. Legacy luxury brands are executing a massive clawback of the high-end market. BMW's redesigned electric 7 Series is just aggressively sweeping up that $80,000 plus demographic.
The exact demographic Tesla essentially abandoned by killing off the S and X lines. They are getting suffocated from both ends.
And I think we need to mention something the New York Times and CNBC highlighted, a significant shift in consumer sentiment.
Yeah, several prominent analysts explicitly modeled a demand drag linked to the CEO.
Exactly. The data they cite suggests that Elon Musk's political rhetoric and endorsements have alienated a measurable demographic of potential buyers. And just to be super clear here, we aren't taking sides or weighing in on the politics. We are strictly neutrally reporting the market data provided in these sources.
Absolutely. We're just looking at the factors mentioned in the financial news. It's an active variable being factored into the slowing sales velocity.
But there is a flip side, a macro factor that could change things.
The ongoing blockade in the Strait of Hormuz.
Right. It's a massive choke point for global energy exports. Because of that blockade, global gas and diesel prices are spiking violently. U.S. gas is pushing past $4.03 a gallon.
And when you alter the cost of traditional energy that drastically, the total cost of ownership math for an EV changes overnight.
A $4 gallon of gas makes an EV look highly attractive again.
Exactly. And more importantly, for the commercial logistics sector dealing with surging diesel costs, this geopolitical crisis might actually serve as a sudden catalyst to revive demand for the upcoming Tesla Semi.
So faced with all these headwinds, slowing sales, rising inventory, fierce competition, standard corporate logic dictates you tighten the belt, right?
You delay expansions and you protect cash.
Yes. But Tesla isn't retreating. Instead, they're doing something that genuinely shocked Wall Street. They're projecting over $25 billion in capital expenditures for 2025 and 2026.
Massive number.
$25 billion. What exactly is this money buying?
Well, they're aggressively funding an exit strategy from the traditional auto sector. This CapEx is building the foundation for a vertically integrated AI and robotics ecosystem.
So it's infrastructure.
Exactly. The financial decks break this down into 3 massive hardware investments. The Cortex-2 supercomputer in Texas, the early tape-out of their new custom AI5 chip, and the staggering $3 billion Terafab project.
Here's where it gets really interesting. I want to deep dive on Terafab, because this is a joint venture between Tesla, SpaceX, and Intel.
It's unprecedented in the semiconductor space.
They're building a massive research lab on the Austin campus to vertically integrate logic, memory, and packaging under one single roof using Intel's advanced 14A process.
The ambition of that vertical integration cannot be overstated. Currently, the global supply chain is incredibly fragmented. You might have the calculating brain fabricated by TSMC in Taiwan. The memory might be printed by Samsung in South Korea.
Right.
That everything is shipped to a specialized facility in Malaysia just to be packaged.
And Terafab attempts to collapse the entire globe-spanning supply chain into a single Texas facility to solve the AI chip bottleneck. And the intercompany dynamics are wild. Tesla funding the core lab, SpaceX financially backing the massive scale-up, and Intel providing the lithography tech.
It's a brilliant way to distribute R&D risk. Though the CFO did note that any deal between Tesla and SpaceX has to pass rigorous independent director reviews.
Yeah, to protect shareholders. Now, before we look at what this custom silicon is actually being built to do, we need to insert a quick reminder.
Always important.
All the information and analysis we chat about here is just to help everyone better understand the market and is not investment advice. Investing carries risks, so before entering the market, be sure to do your homework or consult a financial professional.
Exactly. A vital caveat, especially when analyzing a company making $25 billion pivots. Because all of this infrastructure, it exists to solve a massive computational bottleneck in their pursuit of autonomy.
Right, removing the human driver. Tesla recently released full self-driving version 14.3, and they're running entirely unsupervised robotaxis in Houston and Dallas right now.
Targeting a dozen states by the end of the year, actually, with 0 safety incidents so far.
But the earnings call dropped a pretty painful reality check for loyal, older Tesla owners. Hardware 3 cars simply cannot achieve unsupervised FSD.
It's a tough pill to swallow for millions of legacy vehicle owners. And the technical reason why is a fascinating study in AI hardware. It's not a raw processing bottleneck. It's a memory bandwidth bottleneck.
Explain that because it sounds super technical.
Okay, so the latest iteration of SSD relies on autoregressive transformers.
Mm-hmm.
For those familiar with large language models like ChatGPT, a transformer predicts the next logical word based on the context of the paragraph before it.
Right.
The FSD transformer does the exact same thing, but in physical space. It takes in a massive context window of high-res video data from 8 cameras to predict the next safest physical state of the car.
And to process a video context window of that magnitude, the AI brain needs to constantly shuttle gigabytes of video frame data back and forth.
Exactly, in fractions of a second. The processor is the engine, but the memory bandwidth is the fuel line. And Hardware 3 only has 1/8 the memory bandwidth of the newer Hardware 4 architecture.
So it's like trying to run a massive next-gen 2026 video game on a console from 2013. The pipeline is just too narrow to feed the transformer the video context it needs to operate safely without a human.
That's a perfect analogy. And it forces Tesla into a logistical nightmare. They will have to set up specialized microfactories just to physically rip out the wiring harnesses and computers to retrofit these older cars.
Wow. Which explains their urgency surrounding the Cybercab, right? A vehicle designed natively around this new software architecture.
Yes. But during the call, Musk introduced the concept of the production S-curve regarding the Cybercab rollout.
The S-curve, explain how that works.
Well, when you have a totally new product with, say, 10,000 unique parts, your production velocity only moves as fast as the least lucky, slowest, dumbest part.
Right. So if 9,999 components are perfectly optimized, but a single custom sensor is delayed by a week, the whole line stops.
That is the flat, frustrating bottom of the S-curve. Production remains agonizingly slow until that bottleneck is resolved. Then the line speeds up until it hits the next bottleneck.
And then eventually it shoots up exponentially the vertical middle of the S?
Exactly. But listeners should expect initial Cybercab numbers to be severely constrained.
But the AI brain being trained in Dallas traffic is about to be transplanted into a completely different form factor anyway, one that Musk believes will be the biggest product in history.
The Optimus humanoid robot. This is the ultimate moonshot.
The data here is staggering. Optimus robots are literally taking over the old Model S and X factory space in Fremont. They're targeting 1 million units a year there.
And a second factory in Texas aiming for 10 million units a year.
But strangely, they are intentionally delaying the public reveal of the new V3 design. Why?
Corporate espionage. The earnings call noted that competitors like Boston Dynamics and several Chinese firms are conducting literal frame-by-frame analyses of Tesla's promotional videos.
Oh, wow. Just reverse engineering their custom actuators.
Exactly. So Tesla is keeping the V3 architecture hidden to protect their IP until they hit volume production.
What's fascinating here is how the intelligence will actually work. You have a strict division of digital labor. Optimus requires unbreakable local reliability.
Right. If a robot is carrying a heavy crate and the factory Wi-Fi drops, it can't just buffer and freeze.
Exactly. The physics, the balance, all of that has to run locally on the internal AI chip without an internet connection, just like a car doesn't need Wi-Fi to brake for a pedestrian.
But the higher order reasoning requires a different approach, and this is where SpaceX's ecosystem comes in.
Yeah, SpaceX recently acquired Grok AI.
Right. Optimus will likely use Grok AI as an orchestration layer. If you give Optimus a complex verbal command, Grok acts as the manager. It parses the natural language, breaks it down into physical steps, and feeds those steps to the robot's local brain.
I mean, just imagine the reality of this. A robot that requires as little supervision as a human employee, built using the cash flow of an EV company and the chips of a space exploration company.
It's wild to think about.
So what does this all mean? Let's bring this all together. Tesla missed on revenue, but beat on profit due to one-time accounting boosts.
The core EV market is struggling, yeah.
But instead of pulling back, they are spending a staggering $25 billion to pivot away from just being a car company, aiming to become an AI, robotics, and custom silicon juggernaut.
They are essentially financing the creation of an entirely new asset class.
Which leaves us with a fascinating and frankly provocative final thought to ponder.
Yeah, think about this. If the Terafab initiative succeeds, and Tesla creates an unbreakable ecosystem of custom AI chips, orbital networking via SpaceX, and physical labor via Optimus, will Tesla eventually stop selling hardware to consumers altogether?
Wait, really? Just stop selling cars?
It's possible. Could they simply become the underlying operating system for the global physical economy? Leasing labor and compute rather than selling you a car?
That is a massive paradigm shift and definitely something for you guys to mull over. Thank you so much for joining us as we unpack the data today. We will catch you on the next deep dive.